There's no doubt about the fact that LeBron James is one of the greatest basketball players of all time, if not the greatest. He's been playing with the Los Angeles Lakers since 2018, but now it seems that their relationship is getting a bit rocky. NBA teams are actually preparing for him to request a trade. Let's take a closer look at the story, and where exactly could he end up landing? First up, King James has made it clear he wants to leave. Now, even though the Lakers have had a 5-game winning streak, it's pretty clear that he's not happy with the way things are going at the organization, and he's been pretty public about his disappointment. Just a few weeks ago, he said that he didn't want to end his career playing for a team at this level. He basically said he still wanted to be able to have a fighting chance at winning championships, and that's because he knows that he can bring his A game to any team and help them win. Of course, James wants to spend the twilight of his stellar career contending for championships again, not going through the motions on a losing team. He probably wants to add more records and more wins to his career rather than losses, and the LA Lakers just aren't cutting it. It's come to a point where some people in the National Basketball Association are preparing for him to request a trade this summer. The revelation comes from a general manager of an NBA team who chose to stay anonymous. Up next, how are NBA teams preparing for the big move? It seems very likely that a trade will happen, because whatever King James wants, he gets. Speaking to Sean Devney of Heavy Sports, the unnamed general manager said that this was a conversation that was brewing in the background. They're talking about things like, if you have a chance at recruiting LeBron James, then you have to be prepared. Of course, it's more than just saying you should prepare to welcome one of the biggest players of all time, and another to actually do something about it. So far, there's silence from the teams themselves about whether they're going to woo him, and the Lakers haven't said anything about a trade in the works either. That said, whatever happens, we'll know pretty soon. A little bit later, we're also going to speculate just which teams he might land on. Coming up, so what's next for LeBron James? It's a complicated time for James, and it shows. Just last month, he turned 38, and he clearly had championship contention on his mind at the game in Miami. That's where he won 2 of his 4 titles and made 4 finals appearances from 2011 to 2014. He has also flirted with the idea of actually returning to the team where it all started, the Cleveland Cavaliers. He said this when he was in the city for the All-Star Weekend. He was all praises for the team's young core. He said that the door was definitely still open for him to return home for a 3rd stint. Then there's the possibility that he'll just stay on with the Lakers, despite his issues with the organization. He signed a 2-year contract worth around $97 million in August 2022. This covers the 2023-24 season, and even includes a player option for the season after that. He also said that he wasn't sure about when he wanted to retire, but currently, he runs the risk of missing the playoffs for the 2nd consecutive season. Now that's something he hasn't experienced since his first 2 years in the NBA, and there's his long-standing desire to play in the NBA with his son. How will King James balance all these things? But he's sharp, and we're sure he'll figure out a deal that will deliver what's best for him. Meanwhile, will we see the father and son duo play alongside each other? As Bronny James's high school basketball years draw to a close, there's so much more chatter about the father and son playing side by side on the same team. So are we looking at the younger James also potentially joining the Lakers? LeBron told The Athletic that he'll spend his last year playing with his son. He explained that he wants to play on whatever team his son ends up playing for, and that he would be more than willing to do whatever it takes to make that happen, and that money would not be the deciding factor in this decision. So, whichever team ends up signing the young talent will most likely win the King James lottery too, and it really would be a super hit for any team's box office. But is this a realistic expectation? According to the rules, a player must be at least 19 years old during the calendar year in which the draft is held, and at least 1 year should have passed since the player's graduation from high school. Following this, Bronny could enter the 2024 NBA draft. But will his father still be playing at the elite level by then? We think so. James earned 3rd team All-NBA honors while averaging 30.3 points, 8.2 rebounds, and 6.2 assists over 56 games. So it's hard to imagine James having that significant of a drop-off to a point where he's not a plus on the court for any franchise. Now let's look at 3 possible landing spots for James, in the case that he leaves the Los Angeles Lakers. First up, there's the New York Knicks, which could be his next team. Now, even if the Los Angeles Lakers were to trade James, it would make sense for the team to begin a brand new process of rebuilding the team. And we think that the New York Knicks, with their abundance of draft picks and young players, would be a pretty good trade partner for the California team. team. Players like Emmanuel Quigley, Mitchell Robinson, Quentin Grimes, and Miles McBride could be key assets in a trade to LA, along with multiple future first-round picks. This would set the Lakers up for future successes, especially after their star player leaves. From the Knicks' standpoint, acquiring James would be a very smart move. The franchise has struggled for a long time to land a star player, and nothing like King James to bring the star power. While LeBron himself, James will thrive in the high-profile, media-rich environment of New York City. Imagine him showing up to shoot some hoops at Rucker Park. Now that's a story. And as the NBA star mulls over his impending retirement, NYC would also be the perfect place to start a new career. Up next, we could even see him with the San Antonio Spurs. Speaking of retirement, James could join his favorite coach, Greg Popovich, at the Spurs as he also heads for retirement. LeBron James is not the only one who holds great respect for one of the greatest head coaches in NBA history. The legendary forward has played under Pop on multiple occasions for the U.S. men's national team and has consistently praised him. In 2017, James called him the greatest coach of all time. The San Antonio team hasn't been doing too well. They haven't made the playoffs since the 2018-19 season, and at the moment, they have the second worst record in the Western Conference. But that doesn't necessarily mean that a James and Popovich pairing wouldn't work. Star players would still be eager to play with James, and San Antonio has draft pick assets and young players that could be used to bring in another star or two. So it could really set off a chain of events to really turn the tide on the fate of the Spurs. And honestly, it would be one beautiful match made in heaven as the greatest coach of all time and the greatest basketball player of all time come together, and that too at the end of their illustrious careers. Coming up, there's also the possibility of him joining the Golden State Warriors. While it might be awesome to see LeBron and Curry play side by side, he would probably draw a lot of criticism for the decision. Let's not forget that he's giving the King some really tough times. Curry has previously defeated James in the NBA Finals 3 times in 4 years, and this is obviously not the greatest situation. That said, James has previously expressed interest in playing with Curry. Just last year, he said that he's one player he actually wants to play with. He also spoke about just how lethal Curry's game really was. To be honest, both of them are in the twilight stage of their prime, and it's possible that their pairing could be successful, especially given their current high levels of performance. Curry is averaging 30 points, 6.6 rebounds, and 6.8 assists per game while shooting 50% from the field and 43% from three-point range. And James is averaging 29.1 points, 8.2 rebounds, and 6.7 assists per game while shooting 51% from the field. Also, Golden State has the resources to make a trade happen, including young players, draft picks, and salary cap space. The potential for the two Akron natives to play together would be a historic moment for basketball. Lastly, let's take a look back at all the teams the basketball legend has played with. King James started his NBA career with his hometown team, the Cleveland Cavaliers. He stayed with them from 2003 all the way to 2010. The time between 2004 and 2008 really is the one where he shot to superstardom. He became a free agent on the 1st of July 2010 and was contacted by several teams before he settled with Miami Heat, and he really faced the heat this time for not choosing the Cavaliers, from fans and players alike. But he did end up returning to the Cleveland team once again in 2014, only to leave again 4 years later, this time for the LA Lakers. And even though he's had a good run with them, there seems to be trouble in paradise as the King looks for another team to join. That's a wrap for this video. Which NBA team do you think LeBron James will end up playing for? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.